You're listening to the House of Chapters podcast. Welcome, Kay, to the House of Chapters podcast.
Thank you so much. I'm happy to be here.
Today we're going to talk a bit about your current project. You're going to tell us about the plot in 1 minute, so I hope you're ready for that, or maybe a bit longer. Ian took a bit longer last week in last week's episode to Ian Patterson, so don't worry. But around a minute would be great. And then we're just going to talk about how you got started writing. And today we're going to try to be more specific also about the process of self-publishing, because you've written also a post about that, and that's something we wanted to focus on today. But so first, let's start with your current project. Tell us what it's called and the plot in 1 minute.
Yeah, so my current project is Grief Sucks, and it comes out September 1st of 2026. And it's a bit of a reimagination of Dracula, but instead of focusing on vampires, I'm focusing on Lucy. So in Dracula, Lucy is a character with not much agency or autonomy. She is innocence personified. She is a victim. So I've taken that character and made her her own person in a contemporary setting. So Lucy witnessed the death of her brother and is struggling with grief and falling into substance abuse. And she meets a vampire, not Dracula, at a sobriety meeting, and they form a deal. They make a deal where he will help her forget witnessing that death if she helps him acclimatize to the modern world. So it is a bit heavier than my work that's out right now, but it's still very hopeful. A lot of situational funny things happen. I like to infuse a lot of humor in my work, and I like to use humor as a way to process emotions. So yeah, and my other work is Haunted House Flippers, and that's out right now. And that is an episodical short story collection about a couple who flips haunted houses. Much more cozy, funny than heavy.
Yeah, I remember reading that, and it was funny and interesting. And I think I read the first installment, and that's the book that's out, right? That you've self-published.
Yes, that is the book I self-published this past fall.
Okay, cool. So September is the next big date. So you're done writing your new project, or are you finishing it?
Yes, I finished writing my project this past June, and I did query it. It's as fun as everybody says querying is, which is no fun at all. And after about 6 months, I said, okay, I'm going to self-publish this one, because I had already done Haunted House Flippers. I already kind of knew how to get my legs under me. So I've been editing for the last few months. I re-picked it up back in December, so I had let it rest for about 6 months, and so I've been picking up and editing it.
Okay. Tell us a bit about how you started writing.
Yeah, I think I start like a lot of people start. Like, you're young, you're struck with this lightning bolt of inspiration. You get so excited to let your imagination run wild. So I'll tell you a bit about my villain origin story. So I wrote a short story in 5th grade, so 10, 11-ish age, and my teacher gave me an A+. I got best marks. It got hung up in the hallway for other students and teachers to read. Oh no, that was a terrible idea. I got absolutely drugged by my peers. They were so cruel to me. They're like, "This is terrible. You're a hack. Your writing is awful." And then that was the point where I fell a little bit out of love with it and kind of adopted a new persona, right? I was the person who liked scary stuff. I liked the stuff that nobody else could stomach because it was more protective. So I was really into horror. I still really do enjoy horror, but I can't write horror. I can't live in that space in my head. It scares me too much.
Yeah.
So I appreciate those who can. So yeah, I over the years, I picked up and put down my pen so many times, but it was like I was trying to be somebody else. I was trying to be the scary person, the person who more gore, more blood, throw the paint, splatter here, splatter there. I couldn't be that person. Yeah. And so it was kind of like therapy. I kind of had to go back and okay, who am I? What do I like? And I came back to, I like horror comedy. I like comedies. I like romances. I like fantasy. I like stuff that's a little bit lighter and feel good, and that's okay and that's safe because I realized those people who were very cruel to me, they were just jealous. They couldn't process their feelings, nor could I process my feelings. And
Yeah.
my teacher had the best of intentions, but these things happen, right?
Yeah. And I
So
mean,
what's
look
go
at you
ahead.
now, right?
Look at me
So
now.
if anyone from middle grade is listening, well, look at what you created in
You
that
created a
sense.
monster, exactly. A monster who now knows what they're passionate about and now wakes up at 5:30 every morning to write. So once I found what I was passionate about, it was much easier to pair it with my process.
Yeah. Wow. Okay. It takes a lot of discipline. It's really interesting for me talking to different people for the podcast, and yeah, you're like the third person at least who's told me that they get up early in the morning to write before the craziness starts in that sense. Wow, a lot of respect for you guys. I'm not a morning person, but I cannot afford to write late in the evening either. So for the time being, it's just Tuesday mornings, but really, really great and a lot of respect. A question that I wanted to ask you about, probably more haunted house flippers, is what is something that worked and what is something that failed?
Well, this was kind of like my pet project. This was my test because I was very curious about self-publishing in general. I just wasn't really sure what to do. So I was like, let me start with something low stakes. Let's do a short story collection. I won't put a ton of money into it. And so this was really the test. So in that sense, it was a good idea to do something that was low commitment, but still a high quality product. So I think both can exist. You
Yeah.
just you gotta work it. What didn't work is I didn't know I had to register my book with the Library of Congress to get it into libraries in the United States. So that's something I didn't know. Also, cover designing is very dependent on the number of pages in your book. So when I was working with my cover artist, because that was not an endeavor I was prepared to pick up myself, because I did it all very quickly. I started querying in June and got rejections for Grief Sucks very quickly. And then I started a Substack and I had like a post that got like me 100 subscribers. And I'm like, oh, this is so cool. And so I jumped on this train for haunted house flippers. And I'm like, I'm going to do this. So it all happened very quickly, all driven by myself. So it was very interesting to work with a cover designer, and she's like, I gotta have your page count or I can't make you a spine of your book, like it's gotta be a certain width. And I'm like, I didn't even think of that. So
Yeah.
that was really enlightening.
Yeah, that's actually a great point. I posted a note yesterday. Self-publishing means doing everything on your own and not hiring anyone. And then I said debate. And so there were a lot of answers going in a similar direction as what you described. A certain part of the work is not something you're the best at, or not something you want to focus on, and you know somebody else will do it better. And so outsourcing that in that sense, and it's really something that I hadn't thought about. Self-publishing, as in, okay, but you can still hire an editor at some point, and also meeting so many cool artists and cover designers, illustrators here on Substack. It makes you want to have their artwork on your book in that sense. And that's certainly not something that I can do myself. And yeah, so that's a lot of opinions went in that same direction. A lot of comments went in that direction to just get the help you need in those aspects of the work that you're not the best at, and that's fine because other people specialize in that. So an interesting thing that also that we talked about, DM'd about, was your self-publishing for geniuses post. That's something I would like to actually focus on in this podcast, and I think that's a great opportunity to talk to you about it. So you mentioned step one is writing, And then a routine is the second point you mentioned. And so, what are some tools that help you build a routine?
So, coffee always helps, especially when you're an early morning routine person. So I kind of got my coffee ritual done.
Yeah.
Like my coffee pot I like, the coffee I like, the creamer I like. It gave me something to look forward to in addition to writing. So having that around it definitely helped. Also, I really liked using Readsy's editor. So if you're not familiar with Readsy, it's a really awesome resource. I think they're based in the UK and they have like a marketplace where you can be connected with professional editors, cover artists from the traditional side that are now freelance. They also have this editor tool, so you can write your book in this tool that they have, and so it's got some distraction-free modes and some ways to like build in and block out all the noise that we live with.
Yeah.
And then just finding like a comfortable spot. Sometimes it's on the couch. Sometimes I go hide in my office, like somewhere I can just get, I don't know, an hour of quiet. Because sometimes even though the house is quiet, the dogs aren't quiet or the cat isn't quiet. So yeah, those are some things that absolutely helped. And having a Pomodoro-based timer also helps, especially when you're like lacking in motivation. So I think I usually set mine for like 20 minutes on, 5 minutes off. And so that can help. Like, okay, all I have to do is get through 20 minutes. That's easy. And then I get a 5-minute break. So sometimes that can be a helpful mind game to play with yourself, to be like, all right, here we go. We're just going to do this for 20 minutes. We're going to see what happens.
Yeah, great advice. Limited time writing, and so you just want to focus the distraction free and timer thing. So step 2 you said was editing. You mentioned a couple of editing resources. So books you read or articles you read.
So Save the Cat Writes a Novel is pretty popular. I think I've seen a lot of people talk about it. So that really breaks it down in pretty simple language of like how the beats of a story should go. In a way that we generally recognize them. I think stories can deviate for sure, but it definitely helps kind of like clear up my visualization of how do I get this to land the way I want it to land. So that was helpful. Self-editing for fiction writers was maybe the most helpful book that I had, and I think it's been out for quite a while, maybe since 2006 or before. And I know self-editing isn't for everybody, but it was something that I definitely wanted to try. I think there's a famous author who says she's a terrible writer, but she's a great editor. I can't remember who it is off the top of my head. Somebody's going to listen to this and know exactly who I'm talking about.
Let us know in the comments.
Let us know in the comments. So self-editing is something that I wanted to give a try, and I was kind of dreading it, but I actually really like editing. I think it makes me a stronger writer. So this book had like hands-on examples of how to edit and look for weaknesses in your writing. Like, am I being too, I don't want to say like flowery, but like, am I being too lavender with my writing? Do I need to cut words? Am I using extra stuff? Am I not getting to the point? Am I not being clear? So that book was very helpful. And then Chuck Wendig has a gentle writing advice book, which is also very helpful when you need to be nice to yourself. So I like to treat my writing like a business, but also don't burn yourself out. So like build in those things that help you remain human while you're trying to create a book.
I really liked also you mentioning it's almost apologetic. As I wrote this, I realized how personal all these recommendations were you wrote. But that's actually a great point. That's what makes them great. And also listening to you talk about it, I am definitely ordering that self-editing for fiction writers. So step 3 that you mentioned was research, and so we talked about book covers. Different softwares are mentioned in the article that I will link under this podcast episode anyway, so don't worry, you can read all of that yourself. But I would like to focus quickly on distribution. What are some of the biggest lessons you learned?
Distribution might be the most challenging part because there are quite a few options for distribution. So as I started researching, I found a blog post from Readsy, and I think there is probably 10, 15, maybe more distributors you could go with.
Wow.
So I was thinking I need to minimize this list for myself. I want to tailor to where most of the audience is, which for like paranormal fantasy, paranormal romance is probably Amazon. It's probably Kindle Unlimited because that's where I've read a lot of the work that I like.
Mm-hmm.
So for good or for bad, I had to pick Amazon.
Yeah. And so next to it, Ingram Spark, that I've heard mentioned quite several times in these episodes. One that you didn't mention in your post is Lulu. Did you have any experience on with Lulu afterwards, or
I
not
looked
yet?
a little bit at Lulu, but I didn't go into as much in depth with Lulu.
Mm-hmm.
I thought Amazon and Ingram would give me the best range with the best return. That was
Mm-hmm.
kind of where I was at.
Yeah.
But no, I've heard Lulu a couple times. I just haven't looked into it too much.
Okay, for all the rest, like details on ISBNs, which is also really important, and marketing, advertising, if you're listening to this, you can read this post that I will link to under this episode. And so step 4 was decision time. Maybe we can finish with this.
After you've done a boatload of research and are incredibly overwhelmed, you have to make a decision. And that's the best state to make a decision in. It's the worst state to make a decision in because you have so many options and you want to pick all of them, right? Because you want to give your book the best chance you can. But the reality is we are not publishing houses. We don't have unlimited money. Mm-hmm. So I think the easiest place to start is to set a budget. So once you know how much money you're working with, it's easier to start to narrow that list down and figure out what you actually want to focus your time on. Mm-hmm. And then pro and con it. And then at the end of the day, it's never going to be perfect, but you're trying something that takes an entire team of people to do that you are doing by yourself. So give yourself a lot of grace. Self-publishing is so challenging but very rewarding. And a lot of times it takes a big back catalog for people to find you and to start seeing any returns on this investment that you've made. So yeah, a lot of it came down to like really just gonna have to narrow that scope. Okay, my money determined how I was going to move forward, and so that is what narrowed my scope for me. For other people, it might be, you know, where do my values align? Okay, Amazon is not the most ethical of organizations, so that's not a values alignment. That eliminates Amazon. So other people will have other determining criteria, but that's where I went.
I love that. Thank you so much for sharing that. It's also what I thought might be actually step 0. Like you said, decision time at the end of all of that, when you might be exhausted from everything you did. So maybe decision time should be step 0. I also heard again last week and a couple of weeks ago in the episodes, a lot of authors mention that they realize how they've grown throughout the books they've published, and so almost every one of them would write the first book differently. But that's not the way. It doesn't work in that sense. It's kind of like, is it a paradox? I'm not sure, but you cannot get to where you are now by skipping the first book and the first experience, right? So that's why I love your last paragraph. Your book doesn't have to be perfect. It just has to be finished and findable. That's really, really great advice. You got to be happy with what you did. You got to love it still. So it's important, like you said, and like you did, to take a break for a couple of months and then pick it back up.
Yes, yeah. You know, in self-publishing, we set our own deadlines, we set our own timelines. Just make sure to be kind to yourself. Don't be too aggressive with those timelines or deadlines, right? Like, when I queried, I'm like, oh yeah, I'm going to be picked up in 6 months. I'm going to have a book deal and my book's going to be out and all these people are going to be super jealous and I'm going to be so happy that they're jealous. That's the spite talking.
And then if you read about famous authors, how many rejection letters they got, or how long it took for them to get an agent. So we're all on our own journey, and like you say, show yourself grace and kindness yourself first.
Yes.
Really, really great advice. So we covered a lot of things. really enjoyed both parts of our chat. Let's remind the audience of your book coming out in September. Grief Sucks, and Haunted House Flippers is out right now. You can go check it out. You can go check out the first chapter. Will be linked under this post in the description. Thank you so much for this chat, and we'll keep in touch.
Thank you. I appreciate it.
Take care. Bye.